Hi, Eleanor. Welcome to the Book Dragon. You're here today to talk about Tally and the Angel, which is book 2 in the series, and this one focuses on Canada. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Hi, nice to be here.
We've got a few questions to ask you today for the book 2 interview, so I'll fire away with those. So, I love the main character of Tally in your book. So, is she based on yourself or anyone else you know as a child?
She isn't really, no. I think she's a conglomeration of everything that I've ever admired in any child, or maybe qualities that I wished I'd had as a child, because I wasn't nearly as brave as Tally is. And I don't think I'd have done nearly as well as she's done in all her adventures. But I like to think that maybe with an angel at my side, I would have done. But no, she's not based on anybody. I try not to write about anybody that I know, or use anybody that I know. I might use certain quirks or things like Tally's dad, because sometimes I can tend to write, as my editor says, in a little bit of an old-fashioned way. I try to imagine him. I actually imagine him as Keanu Reeves, and
Okay.
imagine him rather than a father figure as fathers were when I was Tally's age. Then I see a more modern figure, and then I'm able to portray him in a more modern way that way. But no, Tally isn't based on anybody particular. Just the little girl I would have loved to have been.
Oh, well, if they ever make a film of it, we know who'll be playing the dad now, Keanu Reeves. So your Tally series has a traveling to all different places. So when did you first discover your own love of travel?
Oh, I think I must have been 8, to be honest. We very first went abroad for our first holiday when I was 8 years old, and I just loved. We went to Menorca, one of the Balearic Isles off Spain, and I just loved being in a different country. So much to see, so much to learn. So I vowed then, I think, that I would travel. I'd already started studying ballet, which I was a ballet dancer, and so my ballet training, I always intended that it would take me traveling. I never intended to dance in England, and I never did. I never got a contract in England. I went abroad immediately with my very first contract to Italy, and traveled on from then on, and I just absolutely loved it. I really only traveled in Europe with my dancing, and it's since I met my husband that we've managed to travel further afield. So just so much material for Tally stories that I wouldn't know where to stop, really.
Oh, that sounds good. So what's your favorite travel memory?
I think it has to be India. We first went to India in 2006 with my husband. Um, it just absolutely captured my imagination, which is why I set the first Tally book in India. It was just so different. The contrast between the rich and the poor, the dirt and the cleanliness, the colors, the smells, Italian, hark at me, Indian food, just fabulous. I'm a real sweet person. I don't mean I'm very sweet. I mean, I love eating sweet things. So I have a real sweet tooth. I love chocolate. I love any desserts. But all the time I was in India, I didn't crave a single sweet. And I don't know what it is about the food, but it's just so fabulous. It just satisfies you so completely that I didn't even look at the dessert trolleys after dinner, or the dessert, wherever they laid the desserts out. It was just the whole character of the place. The people are just so friendly, and everybody seems so happy in India. Everybody seems happy. A lot of people are living under a tarpaulin, under a bridge, with a cardboard box for their bed, and yet they were smiling and they were happy. And there was something about it that really captured my heart. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So do you discover it's Tally and the angel? She's got this angel by her side, as you described. And I was wondering if you have any particular affinity with angels.
I do. I totally believe that my angels, whether it be one or two or three or however many, are really looking after me. And I've had so many incidences, Michelle, where it can only be explained that there was an angel looking after me. The very first time my husband and I went to Canada in the winter, I think it was about 2003, 2004, and we went out on a snowmobile. You'll recognize quite a few little things that happened to Tally. Went out for a day on a snowmobile. Now, in those days, mobile phones didn't have GPS. They didn't have any coverage anyway outside of town. So we didn't take mobile phones with us. We didn't have anything to contact anybody. They gave us, the people who rented us the snowmobile gave us a little map, which was on an A5 piece of paper of tracks. And that covered something like 50,000 square miles on this.
Oh my gosh.
No idea where we were, no idea. And off we trotted, and my husband, just on one snowmobile, he was driving, I was sitting on the back feeling quite bored. I would much rather have been on a husky sled. And we went and we went and we went, and we didn't see a soul. All day long, we didn't see a soul. And we got to the point where the petrol was running out. And we were going across a vast frozen lake. And this is a little bit like, you wouldn't believe it, but I promise you it's the absolute truth. We were going along this vast frozen lake. My husband with his heart in his mouth thinking, what am I going to do? We're going to run out of petrol any minute. And there's nowhere. And we'll die in this wilderness because there's no one around, nobody around. And suddenly, like a cartoon, suddenly in the middle of this lake, there was a wooden finger post sticking up in the snow, and it had a sign pointing that way, and it said fuel.
Oh wow.
I promise you. So we went left, we veered off, we arrived at this lakeside town, totally deserted, not a soul in sight. So we sort of went through the streets, came to a petrol station. There was one man at the petrol station, and he said, you won't believe it. He said, I'm not usually here. I've just come down today to do something, a special job or something. So he filled us up with petrol. My husband went to pay with his credit card. He said, I don't accept cards. I only accept cash. So we said, well, we haven't got any cash on us. He said, no, it doesn't matter. Come back tomorrow by car. Obviously, we weren't going to do the same thing again. Back tomorrow. Okay, so off we toddled, full of petrol, trying to find our way home or back to where we were staying. And we slid into, now bear in mind, we hadn't seen a soul apart from that one gentleman who shouldn't even have been there all day. We slid into a ravine, and we couldn't get out. We just didn't have the strength to get the snowmobile out of the ravine. And we were just, what are we going to do now? And all of a sudden, again, if it was a film, you'd go, oh no, this is too predictable. All of a sudden, a snowmobile with a young couple came along the top of the ravine, saw us, came down, helped us out, pulled us out. And then the very last thing that day, this is all on one day, I must admit, but the very last thing on that day, we eventually got back on track, found the way home. We had to go up, it was almost a mountain, it was quite a hill, and the track in lots of places, it was very steep. It was only one snowmobile wide and very windy. And in lots of places, the snow had brushed off. It was just stones. Which is very dangerous because the skis sort of go all over the place. So my husband was having to go full throttle because if he'd slowed down, we'd have just slid off the mountain. Full throttle up this track, not knowing if there was somebody coming down the other way, because there would be no way we could have avoided a crash or just been thrown off the side of the mountain. But we made it. We made it back all in one piece. And I just think it must, I mean, the sign for the fuel, the man being there, the couple who came to get us out of the ravine, if that wasn't an angel looking after me, who was it?
It's just an amazing experience.
It was fantastic. I didn't ever want to go on a snowmobile again, but very, very grateful to my angels. Many times, I don't know if we have time, but there was another incident when I was out riding I used to live in Greece. I had a horse and I was out riding. I used to ride on my own because he was a thoroughbred stallion and he was more controllable on his own.
Okay.
And I was just exploring. I loved to explore. So we used to ride out, this was in Greece. So I was living in the northern suburbs of Greece. And where I rode out was the old abandoned royal lands in Tatoi. And we were just exploring. There were bits of buildings and things, and I was going up a little bank, and suddenly my horse stopped. Now you'll tell me horses do have sixth sense, so maybe it was just his sixth sense. But he stopped, and I was saying, come on, no, and he wouldn't go. And I looked down, and in front of us there was, it must have been an old water, maybe a water for container, but I'm talking about the size of a room. It must have been to gather water for the old properties. It's the size of a room, and we were just at the edge of it, and it was obviously, it was empty. It was just an empty pit. And we just stopped. And I mean, if I really urged him on, or we'd been cantering or galloping or whatever, we'd have fallen in there, and goodness knows we'd never been heard of again.
Gosh. It sounds like you could write an adventure book about stories in your own life.
It's on the cards. Although it's fiction, I'm not going to say who I am. But yeah, but he's definitely angels are there for me whenever I ask them. Whenever I ask them, they always give me a parking space as well. Well, nearly always.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Eleanor. So your first book was in India, which you've talked about a little bit, and the second one was in Canada, which you've talked about a little bit. And I know the next one in your series is going to be set in Japan. Is that somewhere you've been as well?
Yes, definitely. Yep. Twice. Again, absolutely adore Japan. Yes. It's so different. It is, I think, one of my favorite countries in the world. It really is. Have you been?
I haven't, no. I actually went to college with a lot of Japanese girls. So I've experienced like being around them, but I've not been to Japan.
Oh, it's just wonderful. It really is so different. It's unbelievably different. And I just loved it. Absolutely. Again, I love the food because I'm a foodie. Let's talk about food. So yeah, everything. So yeah, Japan. So Tally's in Japan. Yeah.
So can you give us any hints of what to expect without giving away too many spoilers?
I can. Well, Tally comes into contact with a Japanese angel. Japanese angels are called tenin, and they tend to be they're very beautiful girls, and they have the gift of flight because of their feathered kimonos. So they don't have wings like our angels. So they have feathered kimonos. So she comes into contact with tenin, and she has to fight some rather bad intentioned, let's say, Japanese spirits of ancient Japanese warriors, and well, I won't say too much, but
yeah.
Yes, so there's a lot of there's spirits and other angels. Yeah, I like to explore other beliefs as well, because we all have different beliefs, and I don't believe that anyone's right or anyone's wrong. They're just all the same but different. So I like to explore those different things in the Tally books without any prejudice, if possible.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I'm looking forward to reading that one as well when it comes out.
I've just finished the first draft, so I'm very pleased with that. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you for joining us today, Eleanor. It's been an absolute pleasure to interview you. And you can get the Tally books 1 and 2 at the Book Dragon. First one in India and the second one in Canada. And we'll look forward to the third one sometime soon.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. It's been lovely being here. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.